Hey everybody, this is Nate here again, and I just wanted to make an updated video from a video I had made about 2 weeks ago. And this was on Ryan Koher, and this is the only video that I'm going to ask you right off the bat to please watch till the end, and I'd also ask you right off the bat to share with others. Ignore my poor video making skills, and just ask that you would watch this and share it with others. On November 4th, 2022, Ryan Koher, a pilot with Ambassador Aviation Limited, which is a partner of Mission Aviation Fellowship, was detained in Mozambique by authorities. He is still being held nearly 2 months later, and no formal charges have been filed, and there's no end in sight to his detainment, from what I can tell, reading the few articles that I have been able to find. From what I gather, the authorities were scanning over the load prior to loading the aircraft that Ryan was going to be flying, and took interest in looks like maybe some vitamins, over-the-counter medications, and food preservatives that were in the loadout that they were going to take. These supplies were supposed to be flown to an orphanage, which Ambassador Aviation has been supporting since 2012 or 2014. Ryan and two locals were arrested for supporting rebel factions that are operating in that portion of the country. Ryan's wife, Annabelle, and their two young children were evacuated back to the United States for their personal security and safety. I came across this story while searching for video ideas about a week and a half ago, and at the time I made a short little video of it. Since that time, this particular story and family has stayed on my mind and in my prayers. I do not know this family, I've never met them, just a story that God has just kept on my mind. And so there has been very, very little news coverage of this story, as unfortunately a missionary being arrested for doing good doesn't quite gain as much attention as some celebrity being arrested for smuggling pot into Russia. So early yesterday morning, around 1 o'clock in the morning, this family was on my mind, and so I did another quick internet search, hoping and praying that maybe he had been released or that there were some news updates. However, I couldn't really find very much updated information. A few hours later, yesterday, I believe it was Ryan's wife, Annabelle, made a comment on our first video and just thanked me for making it and trying to get the news out there. And that just really stuck in my mind, stuck in my heart. And God brought some verses, a passage of scripture to my mind. And all throughout the day, the story of Peter being prayed for while he was in prison has gone through my mind. And in Acts chapter 12, verse 5, it says that Peter therefore was kept in prison, but prayer was made without ceasing of the church unto God for him. And there's a couple of things that really stand out about this passage of scripture, and one is that the church prayed without ceasing. That means they didn't stop. They continually prayed for him. And it wasn't just a pastor in front of the congregation, for a quick, brief prayer before they move on to the next song or something like that. It was the church. They were meeting together. I believe it was in John Mark's mother's house, if I remember correctly, and they were praying together, and they did it without ceasing. And as you read through the story, you'll see that when Peter does come to them, it's basically the middle of the night or early morning, and they're there praying. And as we move down, it says here, and as Peter knocked at the door of the gate, a damsel came to hearken, named Rhoda. And when she knew Peter's voice, she opened not the gate for gladness, but ran in and told how Peter stood at the gate. I just love that. And they said unto her, Thou art mad. But she constantly affirmed that it was even so. Then said they, It is his angel. But Peter continued knocking, and when they had opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. So not only do we see that they were continually praying for this man, that they were continually praying for Peter, but another thing that we see is that I kind of get the indication that they didn't believe that their prayers would do any good. They were amazed. They were astonished when Peter was actually released. They took the time to argue about whether or not it was actually Peter or a ghost at the door. So I want you to think about that for a second. They were continually praying. They were being obedient, but they had limited faith that their prayers would actually be answered. And then they didn't even go check the door. So they prayed without ceasing, but God took care of the miracle. I know we are no longer in an apostolic age, but our God is still all-powerful and can do mighty works and miracles. The question is, are we willing to pray without ceasing and to do our part? Not just the all too familiar, I'll be praying for you, but then forget, but an actual fervent prayer for those that are in need. And so I am asking you that you would, as the church, that you'd hold this man up, that you'd hold this family up before God. He's been kind of forgotten out there. I know that there's people that know what's going on, but you're not going to find this really in the mainstream media. And so I'm just asking you to lift this man up, that he would be released, that you'd hold his family up in prayer. This is the day before Christmas, and it's their husband, their dads, all the way around the world being held against his will. And so we're just praying that he would be released and reunited with his family here very shortly. So once again, I'm going to ask that you'd go ahead and share this video, which I admit sounds very self-serving, but in this case, I'm truly asking you to share this so that others may hear the story and that they can bring Ryan before the throne of God in prayer. So thank you for watching. Thank you for watching all the way through. I'm just asking that you would share this with others.